Deep in the forests of Sumatra, a strange organism survives by sucking the life from its host. In this hot, dark, and damp environment filled with tigers, leopards, rhinos, and bears, the flora can be nearly as eerie as the fauna. When British colonists first encountered the plant in 1818, they could hardly believe what they were seeing and smelling. Dr. Joseph Arnold later wrote, "Had I been alone and had there been no witnesses, I should, I think, have been fearful of mentioning the potent smell or extreme dimensions of this flower. So much does it exceed every flower I have ever seen or heard of." A swarm of flies hovered over its blood-red flesh, huge petals stinking of precisely the smell of tainted beef. What they had found was no ordinary flower. It was the Rafflesia plant, its flower measuring almost 1 meter across, with a putrid smell of rotten cheese, sweat, garlic, and decomposing meat. It's a plant with no stem, no roots, and no leaves. A plant that exists as a parasite to its unsuspecting host. But the more scientists have learned about the plant, the stranger it's become. Rafflesia plants are hollow parasites, meaning they can't survive at all without feeding off another plant. And their host of choice are viney liana plants, in the same family as grapes. The Rafflesia infiltrates its host with a single file line of cells that can stretch for more than 10 meters, sucking moisture and nutrients from the vine. Depending on the species, these threads will spread through the vine for up to 18 months before a bud ever appears. From there, it might be another 9 months before the bud blooms into an enormous flower, and the flower only lasts 4 to 5 days before shriveling up. To try and understand more about the mysterious Rafflesia, over the past 10 years, scientists have been digging into its genome, and what they found has been as incredible as everything else about the plant. First, researchers discovered that Rafflesia abandoned its ability to photosynthesize millions of years ago. It has no chloroplast genome, which means it doesn't have any of the cells necessary for photosynthesis. Then, perhaps even more astonishing, is that Rafflesia has engaged in horizontal gene transfer. This is when genetic information is exchanged between organisms without reproduction. For a long time, this was thought to be possible only among bacteria and single-celled prokaryotes. An example is antibiotic-resistant bacteria. Humans often feed cattle and other livestock antibiotics to prevent infections. The bacteria in those animals evolved to become resistant to those antibiotics, and in some cases, the bacterial changes have then transferred into strains of bacteria that infect humans, like Staphylococcus aureus. But in Rafflesia, horizontal gene transfer has happened between it and its hosts multiple times throughout its evolutionary history. It owes 2 to 3% of its nuclear genome to the host plant, and as much as 50% of its mitochondrial genome to the host. And because there's genetic information from plants besides Tetrastigma, which is what Rafflesia uses as a host today, researchers think Rafflesia DNA might hold a record of its previous hosts. The host-parasite arrangement dates all the way back to the mid-Cretaceous, about 100 million years ago.